Assalamualaikum and good evening to our lecturers, Zamri bin Abu Bakar, and to the rest of my classmates. Today, my groupmates and I are from Group 5, KO7, and we're going to talk about ethical issue in information technology, piracy. For the table of contents, we've prepared 6 topics in total. The first one is the introduction to digital piracy, where we will explain about what is piracy. The second one is the project outlines, where it consists of problem statement, research questions, and research objective. The third topic is project description, where we would talk about survey content, survey results, charts, and outcomes. Fourth is discussion, where we would talk about types of piracy, effects of piracy, and current issue. The fifth topic is project summary, and it consists of conclusion, suggestions to curb piracy. And lastly, there's also references, which we included for more information. Thank you.
First up, what is digital piracy? Well, the methods or sources which consumers and buyers acquire and experience music, literature, video games, and any type of content over the last 20 years have evolved radically. The turn of the 2000s witnesses the inclination of demands for purely digital contents via the internet. Because of the evolution of digital marketing and e-commerce industry, consumers are given the access to materials and products by downloading them from various platforms such as iTunes to streaming on View, Netflix, Spotify, and most of these platforms requires the consumers to pay for them. However, devastatingly, sadly enough, alongside or sometimes even ahead of the evolution of the authorized and legalized distribution of contents and materials, the illegal online content distribution followed the exact same kind of revolution, which is commonly called as piracy. For the physical carrier cases, we can always see counterfeit CDs and DVDs being sold at a very low price, and who wouldn't want them, especially for a good movie? Downloads from Napster and its successors such as the Pirate Bay and cyberlockers such as the torrent web, to streaming via platforms such as popcorn time for free. Internet piracy of software and content products can take many forms. Some of the famous examples are auction site piracy, classified ad sites, FTP, P2P, IRC, and also cracks, and even many more.
For problem statement, digital piracy of copyrighted works has been categorized as one of many other most critical global issues, such as hacking and cyberbullying, in the world of digital and communications technologies. Undeniably, many countries have tried to put protection on these copyright works through civil or administrative measures aimed at blocking websites that provide access to infringing content.
Now we are going to talk about project outlines, which is we are going to talk about research questions and research objectives. First research question is, what is digital piracy? Second, what do consumers support digital piracy, whether intentionally or unintentionally? Third, what are the consequences of digital piracy? And the last, what are the effective measures to be taken to curb this issue? For the research objective, first, to provide factual information about the state of authorized and unauthorized acquisition and consumption of these content types. Second, to investigate the main factors of why digital piracy or pirating is attracting consumers. Next, to reveal the impacts of digital piracy on specific areas, and to assess the underlying motives and mechanisms and the link with enforcement measures and legal supply. Now,
I would like to talk about the project description. In this study, we combine online sources and questionnaires, which is a survey method via Google Form. Comparative research was on the legal status of online copyright, infringement, and enforcement, completed by both male and females, with a total of 63 respondents that are aged between the range of 10 years old to 62 years old and above. The survey results and analysis of the data are also included in this report. For the survey content, we've created a questionnaire with 5 questions about internet piracy. Reasons why it is conducted is because we would like to know people's knowledge about internet piracy. We would like to increase the awareness about internet piracy, and also to know how often it is used for and why. The questions are mostly direct questions instead of opinion-based questions. We have received a total of 63 responses. The questions asked are, the first one is, do you know what is piracy? Second is piracy illegal? Next, what are the types of piracy that you are familiar with? Fourth, have you ever supported piracy, either intentionally or unintentionally? And lastly, based on the fourth question, if yes, why did you do such a thing? Next slide. So, for the first question is, do you know what is piracy? We give them 3 options, which are yes, no, and maybe. However, only 39 out of 63 responses chose yes as their answer. Meanwhile, 14 answered no, and 10 people answered maybe. We have prepared a pie chart above to show a clearer result. Through this question, we can see that more than half of the respondents are aware of piracy. The other 14 respondents do not have any idea of what is piracy, and the rest of the respondents are not fully sure about the meaning behind piracy. This shows that piracy is not a well-known ethical issue in our society. Next slide, please. So for our next question is piracy illegal? Same goes to the first question. We give them 3 options, and the options are yes, no, and maybe. We ask this question in order to know whether they realize that what they have been doing is illegal or not. Based on the bar graph provided, 39 people chose yes as the answer, followed by 7 people answered no, and 17 respondents answered maybe. The 7 people that answered no are not aware of the effects of internet piracy towards a company or organization. If this matters continues, it would reduce the company's profit, and hence bankruptcy will happen. This shows that not everyone thinks or takes internet piracy as a serious matter. Nevertheless, the majority of the respondents actually know that piracy is illegal. In fact, we even have a specific act for it, which is Section 36 of our Copyright Act 1987. Meanwhile, respondents that answer maybe doesn't even know that they are committing an illegal act for their whole life. Next slide. Other than that, the third question is, what are the types of piracy that you are familiar with? There are various types of piracy, such as counterfeiting, internet piracy, end-user piracy, client-server overuse, and hard disk loading. This question was asked so that we would know what are the types of internet piracy the respondents are familiar with. As you can see, most of the responses chose internet piracy with a percentage of 40.9%. Meanwhile, the lowest is others with the percentage of 1.8%. Internet piracy is the most common ethical issue done by society. Hence, it explains why most of the responses knew about it. Besides that, the question is, have you ever supported piracy, either intentionally or unintentionally? For this question, we give the respondents a short example beneath for their understanding, which is you accidentally or purposely downloaded an app for pirate webs. This question was asked to acquire information about whether the respondents have supported piracy or haven't. Again, This question consists of 3 options: yes, no, and maybe. The pie chart shows that the majority of the respondents answered yes, followed by maybe and no, which is 38.1%, 33.3%, and 28.6% respectively. Even though in the second question, is piracy illegal, 39 people answered yes. However, in this pie chart, there are still quite a big number of people supporting piracy, either intentionally or unintentionally. Some of the respondents are not sure whether they have or haven't supported piracy, which is bad, as they don't even know what they've been doing is illegal. Lastly, the fifth question that is based on the fourth question, if the respondent answered yes, they are asked, why did they do such a thing? This question provided 5 choices, which are educational purposes, entertainment, joining others doing so, no specific reason, and others. It is shown in the bar graph that 29 of the respondents did piracy for entertainment, 24 respondents did it for no specific reason, 12 respondents for educational purposes, only 1% for joining others doing so, and the remaining 3 for other purposes. Thank you.
Now, I would love to explain about types of piracy. There are 5 types of piracy. The first one, counterfeiting in software piracy. Second, internet piracy. Third, hard disk loading. Fourth, client server overuse. And the last one, end user piracy. Firstly, counterfeiting in software piracy. This is a sale of copyrighted material with the intent of faking and imitating the copyrighted product. It involves illegal duplication or distribution. This usually occurs when counterfeit copies. In the case of packaged software, it is found in the form of compact discs. Second, internet piracy. It usually occurs when a software is downloaded from the internet. There are many ways for internet piracy of software to be carried out, including classified ad sites, news groups, piracy, FTP, P2P, and more. Thirdly, hard disk loading. This is when a business that sells new computers with illegal and unauthorized copies of software loaded on hard disks. The purpose of this piracy is to make people find their goods attractive as the purchase comes together with a gift, which the gift is illegal, which is a legal disk. The fourth one, client server overuse. This normally happens when there are a crowd of users on the network that use a central copy of a program all at one time. Whenever the people who use the servers are exceeded through one license, that is what we call it as overuse. Last but not least, end user piracy. This happens when a person recreates copies of software without any authorization. A person who copies this for installation or distribution is also included in the end user piracy. It takes advantage in upgrading offers illegally of the version that has to be upgraded. Now, current issue. In 2015, 6 men admitted because of running a global $100 million software piracy ring. These 6 individuals charged in a 6-year massive fraud scheme, which the prosecutors said that they sold more than 170,000 copies of Adobe and Microsoft programs, including Windows, Office, Photoshop, and Creative Suite, which complete with valid registration codes and even physical certificates on authenticity. 5 of the convicted men face up to 5 years in prison, and the 6th face just for 3 years and up to $250,000 in restitution each. It appears to be one of the biggest software piracy cases. Even if it is not the biggest, the department has never ever handled a case like this before. said by the US Attorney Tammy Dickinson. The investigators found out $100 million in sales across the 6 defenders, including an estimated of $30 million in their profits. This case shows that software piracy can bring up to $1 million, and that is why we should take it seriously in this sort of matter.
Next, we would discuss the effects of digital piracy. Well, obviously, digital piracy is undeniably argued to bring obvious negative effects to the industry, especially to the economy of the country, as the action undermines and steals people's creations illegally. However, as harmful as digital piracy might seem to be, there are still positive or even neutral effects that we consumers and legislators tend to overlook. Okay, first of all, we would talk about the negative effects. Illegal copies may substitute the purchase of content or picture palace visits. This is an effect called substitution effects. Pirated software may also carry viruses and other types of malware which infect our devices, mainly computers, which will result to the malfunction of our computers. Frustration to the users that we can see when the encounter bugs and glitches in the software, as the loss of their work occur and the progress of their work interrupted. Next, for the positive effect, we are able to introduce new contents to a larger group of consumers, thus generating greater demands, which is what we call sampling effect. Consumers are more likely to willingly pay, which is what we call complementary demand. And lastly, content creators will have an indirect alternative on marketing their products, which is what we call network effect. For the neutral effect, we can indirectly fulfill the demands of the customer. Though the existence of positive and neutral effects of digital piracy cannot be denied, we cannot commit or support digital piracy in whatever way, whether intentional or unintentional or not, because digital piracy thus brings more bad than goods.
In conclusion, piracy is not a very high-ranking crime, but still, it is a crime. Piracy is one of the most challenging problems faced by the movie, book, and music industries. One of the biggest problems that has hampered studies of piracy is the counterfactual methods by which effects are usually estimated. For example, in economics, piracy adversely affects the dynamics of demand and supply in the theatrical market. The immediate effect on the dynamics is to increase the rate at which revenue and the number of screens showing the movie decline. The longer-term effect is to alter the information dynamics in such a way that demand in later weeks is also reduced. Also, a pirated movie will play off more rapidly and lose revenue at an accelerated rate during its run. They test this economic hypothesis by empirically modeling the rate of decline in weekly revenues in relation to the number of pirated prints available for internet download. There are a few suggestions to prevent piracy. For the first suggestion is place copyright notices on your publication. Including a copyright notice on your works is quite easy to do and provides several benefits, such as placing a proper copyright notice on your work also prevents pirates from claiming to be innocent infringers, which will result in a higher damage award should you decide to sue the pirate. For the second suggestion is tighten up your licenses and contracts. The value of your copyright is closely connected to the rights you're licensing. You should audit all license agreements under which you allow others to use or distribute your publication to ensure the terms and conditions of use are sufficiently clear and that they protect your company against piracy and other illegal acts. And lastly, for the last suggestion is develop a working relationship with government agencies. Even the most aggressive copyright owners need help enforcing their rights because pirates are continuously devising new ways to engage in piracy and to avoid detection. It is exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, for publishers to combat these piracy alone. The best way to effectively address online piracy problems is through the cooperation of multiple stakeholders, including the federal, state, and local government agencies that are responsible for enforcement.